So, having not been truly satisfied with my count of this market, XLM, I have gone ahead and did a lot more analysis on the patterns, right? Because the truth is that we can't just use volume to determine these moves until the volume happens. But for me, the best possible way to understand what's going on here is to get a really good, thorough understanding of the pattern. So I went back and I looked at both patterns, the XRP pattern and the XLM pattern, and sort of came to conclusions working backwards from this pattern, which I believe is the beginning of a massive move up. Now, in my previous chart that I posted recently, I did say that we're going to see a zigzag up, but the truth is that's a minimum expectation, right? We could see a five-wave move unfold to the upside, but for me, it was more crucial to sort of try and understand what would cause that to happen. Now, with my Dow Jones analysis, I do believe there's a crash coming. With my ASX analysis, the Australian stock market, I do believe there's a crash coming. In fact, the pattern is a lot different in the ASX than it is in the Dow Jones, which gives me more confidence that something is coming in the next couple of months. So, what would that look like, and how does this all fit into it, right? Now, this particular count suggests that yes, the end of 2022 was basically the floor on this pattern. But that doesn't mean that we're not going to hang around these areas for a bit longer. And what would cause that? I believe it's this pattern. Now, I'm not an Elliotician by no means. AriasWave is, I created AriasWave to try and understand the pattern. So I'm never satisfied with my count because it's really hard to determine these crypto patterns. It is. I believe well, all patterns are pretty hard, right? Nothing's perfect. There's no perfect example of a zigzag or a five-way move. However, I think that as we move along, I start to piece more and more together. I think that potentially that move up that was really sharp was a wave three zigzag, right? Wave one, sharp wave two, that does not look like a proper five-wave move. Um, at least in the normal sense, I do think that there's a lot of other evidence that comes after that that suggests that no, it's not. This move down here, for example, I think it can be looked at as a zigzag. So a zigzag should not be here, right? A zigzag should not be here at all. So to me, I went back and started looking through the bigger picture. And I found this count that basically lines up with the XRP count. And if XLM and XRP track closely together, then this would be the count that basically sort of eventually comes to light to sort of show that, yeah, maybe they do track together. And there's a few things about this particular count that I want to talk about. So the first thing is, okay, so if we're going to look at straight five-wave move, well, we need a one, which probably happens straight after, three five-wave moves up, uh, three not being the shortest, that's possibly wave three, and then an A, B, C, D, E, wave five. The previous count, it seemed a little too far-fetched if you ask me. Now, this is very similar to what happened in XRP, right? Now, in this particular case, I don't think we saw an ABC at the low. I think that what happened here is we saw an expansion when A, B, C, D, E, all the way down to the end of 2022. It's making more sense now that we're seeing this pattern. The only thing I don't like about this particular count is that wave three starting off with a weak five-wave move. Look, I am not going to say that it's impossible, right? I'm not going to say that it's impossible because XLM has been suppressed, XRP suppressed, not ready to shine immediately when Bitcoin moves. but I do believe that we have seen a low in XLM against Bitcoin, right? I've shown that chart before, and I'll just show you again. The XLM BTC cross pair, I believe we've made a bottom. We've bottomed out on this chart. Now, for now, I'm going to go with discount because it seems logical. At the lows, you can see we've hit that line that I was talking about originally. What is that line? Well, it's the previous lowest point of wave 4, right? So wave 3 happened back here. Wave 4 lowest point here, that line. It's hit it, it's reversing. I believe this is a low, right? And I believe at the very minimum, it'll perform 8,000% better than Bitcoin. But that's at a minimum. Once again, I'm using minimums here, assuming that it's a zigzag pattern, but I think there's something else going on in the markets. Right now, obviously, we know that the ETF has been approved. So I think that, you know, there is adoption coming uh, across the board, but I also think that there is something in between us and that adoption, right? The mass adoption. I think that there is this little thing called a freaking massive crash coming, which may or may not be severe as I say, but I think that it will be at least 50% in the stock market, right? 50% is being nice, and I think that's okay to not be too bearish. And look, we've all seen what happens when the market crashes 40, 50%. You get the COVID wave type move, right? Now, this is going to be, I believe it's going to be bigger than the COVID wave type move, but at the same time, um, we also need to complete this week 5 wave move up first before we get any kind of pullback. And I don't believe that pullback will go below this point here, 0.0708, roughly on the chart. I do think that we will get sort of like the beginnings of a bull market appear shortly. But as I said, I believe roughly around March, April, we will see this thing happen in the markets, a pullback that will result in it coming back down before we see, I suppose, a bit of chop before we see eventually this exploding to the upside. Now, I have a feeling that's going to be the case. You can call it a cup and handle pattern long term if you want, doesn't really matter. There's the cup, and the handle is ongoing until we eventually break up to the upside, right? Now, this type of thinking to me is not indicative of just a zigzag pattern. This type of count really does tell me that this is going to keep going higher in a bull market that will be ongoing, right? And I think that it will be ongoing across the board once we see happen what's going to happen. I don't know how long it's going to last. I really can't tell you that. I have no idea, right? All I know is that I'm seeing potentially the week 5 wave move, wave 1, that will be the first wave of wave 3, or it could be a wave C for a zigzag, right? Now, I'm not going to give you crazy price predictions here, but if you look at that XLM BTC chart having a low, what's the upside? We don't know. It could be pretty good, right? It could be, this could perform amazingly. Now, put all your ideas about market cap aside for a minute and understand that if this gains mainstream adoption because of the ETF, that's going to flow into crypto. That's going to flow into XLM and a lot of other probably top 20 coins, I would say, unless somebody does something completely stupid and is exposed as a fraud or something. I think we have a good chance. So, look, at the end of the day, all these projects, they're all just technologies that have developers behind them, right? They need constant updates and community consensus to make any changes, even Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is no different than XLM apart from its supply. They also have, and also that it requires a shitload of energy to be mined. But there's different ways of skinning a cat, and XLM is no different, right? It also has a bunch of developers and community for consensus. Okay, yeah, you could say some developers are better than others. That's fine. But look, this is a this is an entire industry, innovative technology that's disrupting the world. And if we do get a banking crisis, then XLM is definitely at the top there, uh, to basically provide the kind of services that would replace a banking system anyway. Of course, with a lot of other cryptos. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into that subject because I could that goes. You can talk about that till the cows come home, right? Um, but in a nutshell, I wouldn't go getting too bullish that quickly because we still need to see a wave five and a pullback, right? And we don't know how that's going to go in terms of length, depending on what's happening in the broader market, right? And we also don't know what kind of move down Bitcoin will make, because if XLM has bottomed against Bitcoin and it's not moving up completely higher straight away, then I would say that Bitcoin has uh, some downward pressure. Okay, because as you know, the approval of the ETF, it didn't exactly send Bitcoin through the moon, right? So I think there's a bit of caution in the market, and I think that the broader sentiment, which is crowd psychology, is saying that what, there's something coming down the pipe shortly. But once that's done, I believe that we can move into a bull market, and I think that this type of market sentiment kind of explains why you might see a week five wave move for wave one of a wave three that's incoming. So hopefully you found this video interesting and informative. I'll catch you in the next one.